Hey, what's up YouTube? So when you're setting your picture frame, usually with decking you start with the furthest exterior board. That way I have a full board, and then if you end with the ripper, you put it by the house so it's not visible, and I'll show that. So what I did is I'm doing an inch overhang or a nosing. So you burn an inch overhang, and then my decking material is 5.5, so I mark a line on each end of my deck, and then I snap a line, and that's going to be essentially my picture frame overhanging an inch. Now from that I pull to the 10 just because it's easier, bring it out, set to an 1/8 because I'm gapping my deck an 1/8 of an inch, my cedar boards. So I'm at 9 7/8, and then I mark 15.5, a 5.5 board. So that gives me where I'm setting this board to, because I want an 1/8 of an inch gap. And then what you can do is you snap that line. So you can see there's my original, or my first line for my overhang. You can see an inch overhang, 5.5, and then once again you burn an 1/8 here, 5.5. So this will set my edge, my back edge. Well, to mark out for my post, you can either take your tape and butt in and mark your board at 5.5, because essentially my back edge is, or my leading edge is going to go up. Or a good trick that doesn't require a tape is you just slide a full course of your decking material and then scribe that line, and that's the material you need to remove to get this set to your line. But yeah, so I got it all marked out. You just go along, set to your chalk line, and then take your block of decking and mark it. And I'm going to cut all those and router those edges, because that's a nice little detail when you have to notch anything with a 1/8 inch round over bit. You can see all my posts. I finished up the stair detail yesterday, and when I'm building stairs with 5/4 deck board, no matter what it is, I like to push a 1/4 inch on the steps versus an 1/8, because that gives you a bigger tread, so you're a true 11.5, and I just feel like that's a much more comfortable tread. But yeah, so I'm gonna notch this board out, and I always run my decking in long, and then I'll chalk a line, cut it for my picture frame when I come in the side. That way, if you try to cut each individual, it's easy to get off. But if you run your deck boards wild, come in, chalk a line, cut it off, take your router, ease the edge, and then throw your picture frame board in. Makes it much easier. I'm waiting on the fascia on this side to install. All these are kind of roughly cut. They need fine tuned, but the fascia's drying. I'm gonna throw that on. So right now I just got all my boards laid in the field, and now I'm putting in my picture frame, my board that runs parallel with my joist. So what you can do is I already cut that board beforehand, before I started laying my field boards, and you can see right here is where I cut this board. So basically what I want to do is cut a line right along this edge all the way to here. I'm going to allow an 1/8 of an inch between my field boards and the picture frame. I set my picture frame board on top, made sure I had an inch each way of overhang, pulling off the fascia, which I do. If that comes out. I got an inch. I scribed a line. Now from this line, I'm gonna add an 1/8 and then cut this. You can use the chalk line, just make sure it's not red chalk. You know, you could use blue chalk. So then you cut that line, and then you use your router to ease the edge, and then you can put that in and install it. So I'm gonna show you kind of laying that out. So I just scribed that line across, so you can see. I pulled over an 1/8. That's gonna be my cut line. And you could use like a track saw, or you can freehand it. Take your time. So as you can see, when you're picture framing, this is my framing back here, probably 1.5 inches. So that way any water that's gonna hit this is gonna be able to get out, versus doing like flat blocking like you'll see people do. So on this joint, I would make sure and with your picture frame blocking to keep that back versus catching both ends of the board. That way any water that's, you know, because a lot of water is gonna travel that joint. So to make sure any water that gets in there can get out. So now I'm gonna take my multi-tool to finish these cuts off, and then I'll get my router in there. And these are one of those new Milwaukee blades. I used to buy the Diablo, and I thought they were really great, but I think the quality kind of went down after they have been out for a while. And I've been impressed with the Milwaukee brand. They seem to be a little better now. Some inch overhang. And you can see it's not perfect, but by the time I route that, ease that edge, it kind of is more forgiving. But it's not bad. So that's just, now I'll take my router and ease that edge. So now I'm gonna hit it with my sander. So you can tell after sanding and routing that how much better that looks. You know, it really is a good way to hide any imperfections, or if your cut's a little off. Really just, you know, the little things like that. The devil's in the details. So if you take your time and really do, you know, a nice job, it really adds up at the end of the deck and makes a big difference. So you can see by starting at the front, setting my deck board there, so I had a full deck board and working towards the back. This is a scenario you're gonna run into. This is my ripper, a 2-inch piece. I gotta tuck it under the threshold. So, you know, you work your way, get this board installed the second to last, so you can get your measurements. And then before you put that in, you take this back out. You sneak this board in. And it's going to be a trick to get that screwed off. But now I can place this board which it really, you know, you're never going to walk on it. So this is an extreme case of that scenario. But yeah, so it's as simple as that. I've seen a guy I used to work with, even on composite decks, you know, people pay 30 grand for a big nice deck. and he would start at the back of the house and work to the front. And we had decks where we had finished up with the ripper right in front, and that's very unsightly. So always start at the front of your deck and work back. That way you can tuck it up by the house. But yeah, so there's that. Now I'm going to screw this down.